Hi, everyone. It's Cassandra Williamson. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful evening. Welcome to the show. Anyone who is watching, just know that I'm likely to offend just about everybody deliberately. You've had fair warning, okay? Sometimes we have to shine a light on our own things before we can remove a log from another person's eye. Isn't that right? Unless, of course, you think that you don't have logs or any kind of issues to deal with of your own, in which case, I mean, by all means, holier than thou stuff, go for it. Excuse me. So here it is, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And today's topic is we're going to talk about Tehran and Oklahoma and the United States and maybe even a couple other places around the world. But I'm going to start with this statement that religious nationalism is an evil construct designed to subjugate people of diverse views to adhere to one particular faith. That is religious nationalism. Now, notice I did not choose there to say Christian nationalism or Islamist or Islamic nationalism of any kind, Islamic governance or Hindu governance, anything like that. I did not say that because I want to focus first on what religious nationalism is in Iran. And you can call it Shia theocracy. You can call it whatever you want, really, but it's Khomeinism, and from Ayatollah Khomeini. He runs that country. He tells the country exactly what to do, how to go about doing it, whether or not it is godly or and according to the will of Allah, which is just another word for God, just so you know. So that's what it's all about, really. He gets to determine, he and the board of governors, or the committee or whatever, they get to decide whether or not what the country is doing is good in the eyes of God. The president, prime minister, whomever, the council, all of the leadership organizations, the way people run their lives, all of it, they get to determine whether or not it matches their interpretation of what it means to be Muslim. Now, that's neglecting the fact that there are 150 different versions, at least, of Islam in the world. Yes, and not all of them are violent. Just a handful of them are. Shia theocracy is a violent form that imposes itself upon its citizens. It's a form of governance that hides its power and shields its power through its faith, through the religious beliefs that it holds. And this is nothing really surprising, I guess, to a lot of people. We have Afghanistan with the same kind of thing going on there. Women are completely subjugated to the will of the men who get to do whatever the heck they want. But the men get to determine whether or not what a woman is doing is godly enough for them. That is a theocracy. The Iranian version is Shia theocracy. Khomeinism, if you will, another word, another way to describe it. And why is it so important to point out that that's that? And I'm sure that many of you can look around right here in the United States. You can see all kinds of parallels to that. Not to the faith itself, not to the, as one faith being like the other. No, they are different. They are different. But both of them do have peaceful groups and thinkers, people who pursue peace throughout the world. Both Muslim and or Islam and Christianity have those things. In the Christian faith, there are more than 45,000 different denominations recognized around the world. Just think about that a minute. 45,000. They all do not agree with each other. In President Trump's cabinet, you have one person who actually is a French Huguenot. Yeah. He attends the only French Huguenot church in America, the last one. Sure enough, check it out. You can check it over on my website there. That's listed. Where did it go? Right here. Let me put my name back up on the top screen again. Admin. I'm more than admin. Okay. Right there. Go to the website. Check it out. Go to the blogs. You can find all kinds of stuff over there about these things. Religious nationalism. So what happens here? Well, we see in Hungary, we see what's happening with Christian nationalism. You have the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Family Research Council, Eagle Forum, the CPAC, all of those things heavily involved in Hungary because Viktor Orban is also a Christian nationalist for his country. He has taken away programs at the universities that deal with women and gender studies. He's banned things that have to do with LGBT people, like pride parades and all that kind of stuff, even though recently they all got together and actually had a massive parade that he declared was illegal, but still they did it. Good for them, right? You got to stand up to these kind of people one way or another. Usually that's what it amounts to. But I'm not saying violently. Don't do anything out here that draws attention, draws a focus away from what the message is. All right. That's plain and simple. Don't do violence, period. Don't pick up bricks and rocks and throw at anyone. Don't go shooting at someone. Do not be violent. I will be the one to call you out, regardless of which side of the fence you're standing on. If you are a trans person doing this and I find out who you are, hey, I'll let the police know for you. I'll save you the trip. I surely will. Same thing goes for either side of that thing. But let's get back to Viktor Orban. Now, the United States has exported its extremism for a long, long time. Many of you may or may not know this, but in the 20s and 30s, we exported our racism, the KKK kind of thinking, to Europe. That latched on hearts and souls of the leaders in Nazi Germany and became part of that because they really thought that the racism that was in the United States and the eugenicists who were here, like Bertrand Russell, these people who were academics in the US in the 30s, they supported eugenics. And Hitler picked up on this stuff and took it and thought that the United States would stay out of the war because we were kindred spirits. Thank God we didn't. Oh my God. Because we were anti-fascist then. Truly anti-fascist. So these people picked it up. Now, what's going on today? And it's been going on for a long time too. But here's the biggest one. Over in Uganda, our religious extremism has taken hold of that country to the point that rules and laws and policies produced by the Ugandan government match the religious theology of Rick Warren, a pastor here in the United States, an evangelist who takes his message of anti-LGBT stuff and anti-minorities, basically, but anything that's anti, he goes for it. He pushes it out there, particularly LGBT stuff. He persuaded the leadership of Uganda to pass constitutional amendments and laws that banned same-sex relationships at all and completely, and put a 10-year penalty on them or death if they were caught. Look, gay and lesbian people and transgender people have been around since the dawn of time. You're not going to get rid of them. That is the way they were born, and I don't care if you think that's scientific or not. It is scientific. You just don't know the science. You think you do. You think you have a 1950s version in your head of what biology and genetics is. Boy, we've come a long way since then, you know? Really have. You ought to look up chimeras and mosaics And then the intersection of those two, those are real, and it occurs more frequently than you would probably ever imagine. Check it out. It's there. You can see it. It's really there. Okay. But anyway, so Rick Warren has been doing this in Africa. Other evangelists do the same thing. Even in Russia, folks, the evangelists have made it into there. I know some of them. I've actually laid hands on some of these people myself. By that, I mean in the biblical sense of going, I'm praying over them. I've done that. I worked for 6.5 years for Kenneth Copeland down in Texas, Kenneth and Gloria Copeland, the Prosperity Message Ministry. They were in Russia a lot. They were anti-LGBT a lot. That message got picked up in Russia. There was already that hatred there, but Putin didn't come by it that way. He uses it, he sees it as a way to gain power. As a KGB agent, he didn't care one way or the other whether you were gay or lesbian or trans. He didn't care at all about that. If he could use it as a bludgeon instrument, a blunt instrument against you, he would. But if he couldn't, he wouldn't. Okay? Our evangelists went in and changed the dynamics to the point where Russia outlaws LGBT stuff. As a matter of fact, just recently in St. Petersburg, a media outlet was hauled into the court because they were producing material that could be construed as LGBTQ+. Really? I mean, if kids will read Star Trek, do you think they're going to turn into a Vulcan? How many kids out there became Nancy Drew? How many of them became SpongeBob? Well, none. Yeah, that's the way that works, folks. But see, it's not about that. It's about power, subjugation of another way of thinking. That's what it's all about. So this Christian nationalism that we see going on in the United States today is being exported around the world, and that is wrong. But we've done it before. We've been here before. This is not like it's something new. This is just the way it is. We think we are God's gift to God. Ryan Walters in Oklahoma has asked PragerU to come up with a set of standards that can be used to assess whether or not teachers in the state of Oklahoma are anti-woke enough, that they do not push, as he put it, a misunderstanding of biology about males and females, and when in fact that very statement belies the fact that he knows absolutely nothing about biology and genetics. None whatsoever. It's never been binary, folks. No matter how much you want it to be, and no matter how many Bible verses you quote, it is absolutely not true. It's not true. Even in the Bible, that was recognized. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. From Jesus on down, all the way through that thing. They talk about some eunuchs that were born that way and some were made that way. Some forcefully, some violently, some voluntarily. Yeah. You got to check it out. I mean, there's more to us in the Bible than you would think. But not once does Jesus mention anything about gays or lesbians or trans people in any of the red letters. Do you know what the red letters are in the King James version of the Bible? You know, written by the gay King James. That one. Well, no, his 800 or so people who worked on the staff. But yeah, he was reportedly gay, or at very least bisexual. So anyway, Ryan Walters, employing PragerU, which is an ultra-conservative religious institution, along with Florida using the same kind of stuff, and South Carolina using the same kind of stuff, and Arizona using the same kind of stuff from PragerU. What we have is the foundations being laid for a Christian nationalist takeover of states. It's already happening at the federal level. We already know that. Pete Hegseth is bringing in his religious views from Doug Wilson, which is a Christian dominionist, one version of Christian dominionism. It's his version. Like I said, there's 45,000 different versions out there. Pick one. Anyway, so his believes the same thing that the Ayatollah Khomeini believes, that is in Shia theology, or theocracy, which is that they have a right to rule over and dictate policy to the president and the Congress and the people in this country because, that's what God told them that they were supposed to do. But that ignores the fact that there are still 45,000 other particular viewpoints and they all disagree with each other, mostly. What gives them the right to say that they have the only truth and the sole truth and whatever it is? No, they don't. No, they don't. The reason so many people are getting pissed at all of this stuff coming from the religious nationalists around the world, whether it's Shia theocracy or Hindu theocracy or Christian theocracy or Jewish theocracy, the reason people get pissed at that is because they're wanting to take away the right to be yourself, to live freely without having someone else tell you that you're living it wrong or right. If somebody else is offended because of the way you choose to live, that's on them. But the moment they take that and try to subjugate you, then it becomes a big problem, folks. That goes against everything this nation was founded upon. This nation was not founded upon or founded as a Christian nation. Was not. Many of the founding fathers, since that's all they allowed to write and actually produce anything, many of the founding fathers were opposed strongly, so was George Washington, opposed strongly to having religious leaders and dogma sweep into the governance of the nation. Hamilton certainly didn't want it. Jefferson by no means wanted it. He was just a deist, meaning he believed in a God but didn't know exactly what it was, so he figured he better believe in something just to cover himself. Jefferson was basically, according to Martha Washington, who called him a hypocrite, it was a hypocrite, because she didn't speak to him for 10 years because she considered him to be a hypocrite because of the way he said one thing out of one side of his mouth and said something else out of the other side of his mouth, and she just didn't like that. So she didn't talk to him for 10 years. And after George passed away, it took a little while when he then became president, and then the dynamic changed a little bit. But Jefferson was indeed someone who knew the difference between right and wrong, but did not have the strength of character to see it through. He knew slavery was wrong, but he said he didn't want to offend the peerage there in Virginia at the time. He didn't want to appear to offend his friends in Virginia, to be perceived as being someone who was an abolitionist. He didn't want that. He had an image to uphold, even though he died bankrupt. Right. But an extremely smart person, by the way. He didn't think this kind of Christian-based nationalism was the thing to go. The Treaty of Tripoli, the very first treaty that we actually signed with another nation overseas, explicitly states that we are not a Christian nation. We allow people the freedom to think for themselves, to be religious if they want or not be religious. No one interpretation has the right to impose their views on the rest of the nation. That is wrong. As a matter of fact, when Texas wrote the Republic of Texas wrote their Constitution in 1836, one clause said this, me paraphrasing it slightly: no clergy should ever be elected to an office of leadership in the state. Why? They actually said this too. It's more important that you tend to your flock And we don't, basically, they were saying, and this is another interpretive part of mine, basically they were saying that there's a clear separation of church and state here. As a matter of fact, Texas wasn't the only one. There were about 17 other states that said the same thing. Like Kentucky. Other states said the exact same thing. They did not want clergy to be there. Washington even said it. So come by it correctly. But shortly thereafter, well, I guess about 50 years later, they decided that was wrong. They took it out of their constitution and replaced it with something else that was a little less harsh towards the clergy. And they did that because there were some powerful people who were clergy who thought that they needed to be in government because they wanted to tell the people how to live their lives freely. Right. No, that wasn't freedom. This is the way you should live freely. Follow this guideline right here, and that's how we're going to do this. But it took, I think it was in the 1880s, to finally turn that around in the whole country, where that was no longer the case, where the constitutions didn't have that explicitly stated. But people by then actually understood that there was a separation between church and state. But today, we've got PragerU, we've got the Heritage Foundation, we've got Alliance Defending Freedom, we've got the Family Research Council, Eagle Forum, and many, many others out there who are saying that, yes, we are a Christian nation. Can't you see? We said it all these years. We really are. We really are. They want you to believe it. Really are. No, we never were. But that's what they want you to believe. They want to change the narrative to fit it. So Christian nationalism is now the pariah in this state and in the country. And we are exporting it around the world. Viktor Orban, Uganda, Brazil, other parts of Africa, into Russia, and to South Korea. There's an old saying that says something about, we have come into this world as the destroyer. That's what's going on with this Christian nationalist stuff spreading around the world. This Shia theocracy that's trying to take over the Middle East and wipe out Israel. That is Islamic nationalism. They think they have a right to govern, and they have such a long grievance against Jewish people that goes back to at least the 13th century BC, back when the United Hebrew state was formed. I know I've tangled up all those words, but I've been around a long time. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. But there was the United Jewish State that was around 1200 BC, something like that. The anti-Semitism then was just as dangerous and powerful as it is now. And it wasn't the Muslims then. They weren't that. The Islam didn't come around until what, about 1400 AD? No, it was before then. No, because the Crusades and all that. So yeah, the Crusades were over there too, and the Crusades were in the early thousands, somewhere around there. So we've got all of these things taking place around the world. One religion thinking they can dominate the whole planet, another one coming out of the Abrahamic faiths and doing the same thing. And the people on the Islam side, they're also from Abraham. They all know that. We all know that, right? And yet they're like brothers fighting each other because they maintain that the chosen people of Israel failed to do what they were supposed to do, so they feel they have a God-given right to destroy them. And it doesn't matter how many treaties they sign with the infidels. Their faith system, and I've read the Quran, have you? Their faith system basically says that you can lie, cheat, steal, or anything against someone who does not believe your version, Shia theocracy, of the Islamic faith. You can do anything at all, and you're not held to account for it. They will always go after Israel. And I will always say that they need to be stopped, not Israel, but Tehran and Khomeini. And yeah, they've been a problem since 1979. So anyway, we've got the same kind of stuff taking place right now at the same degree. We're seeing the beginnings of it in Oklahoma, in Florida, in the federal government with Pete Hegseth and so many other people out there. I don't really think that Trump is this way. He's more cosmopolitan. He's a tool used by the religious fanatics in this country. Not all religions are fanatical, okay? That's why I said there are 45,000 of them. You got one or two or three or four that are nuts, and then you got thousands more that aren't, but they haven't stood up and said, stop already. They haven't seen the writing on the wall that this other group of one or two or three or whatever it is, they want to dominate the whole thing. All of it. Governance, how you interpret the Bible, how you interpret your lives, how you define the characteristics that make up who you are. They want to define it. And they really don't care about the science at all. They are more into creationism than science. That's a whole other story. So anyway, I've been at it for 26 minutes and with that, I'm going to say this veteran served for all Americans, every darn one of them. No matter what your beliefs are, no matter what or who you think you are, or who you go to bed with, or any of those characteristics, they don't matter to me because I served for all Americans. Good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Same bat channel, same bat place, and make sure